Shalom, Yabashim Yahshai Barakathum, to all my brothers, Yahweh Shema, Alathab, Hashim Yahushai, to all my sisters. We're the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. We've been teaching so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and our so-called Native American brothers that they're the Lord's chosen people according to the Bible. We've been teaching this truth since 1969 under Commander General Yohana. Today's our history class. As you know, our oppressors' holidays coming up. This year has been a very interesting year. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, now our oppressors' holiday, and I say this for a reason, our oppressors' holiday will be in full effect. And you could see the spirit of Thanksgiving this month. You could see it, you know what I mean? Everything, just like, the spirit of Halloween last month, everything was pumpkins. Everywhere you went, all you saw was pumpkins last month. And now the pumpkins funnel into the Thanksgiving, right? People are, preparing for their pumpkin pies. I mean, turkeys, I've seen turkeys as low as 39 cents a pound. You know what I mean? We're talking about turkey galore, right? And, all for the last couple months, more specifically, if we concentrate on the George Floyd situation, we have been, let me not say we, but our people have been pushing this Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. And they've been protesting, and they've been marching, and they've been in conflict with other groups out there. And now here comes Thanksgiving, right? Now, when you think about our native brothers, our Seminole brothers, when you think about the tribe of Gad, and you think about all the native tribes that were present prior to the white man's, our oppressors' conquerorship of this land, what we have to understand is that there's something that, as a man of the Lord, there's something that you must hold, and you shall never lose. You should never lose, and that's your integrity. That's your belief in something and standing for what you believe in. And now we see the hypocrisy of the Black Lives Matter movement, because if we dive into history, you should know that Black people were the ones that were here prior to the Pilgrims, prior to the Mormons, prior to the Quakers, prior to these religious groups that landed, and that, more specifically, not just that, I think one of the biggest ones were I'm trying to figure out what is one of the biggest religious sects that broke off from the Catholic Church, the Protestants. Prior to the Protestants coming in here and bringing in white Jesus and the sword, Black people in the tune of 15 million filled these lands. And so now, if we consider, if we're promoting Black Lives Matter, and we're promoting no justice, no peace, what about no justice, no turkey? What about that, right? So the plight that our brothers took, our native brothers took, that doesn't matter, huh? When Thanksgiving comes around. If you were to ask black people why they celebrate Thanksgiving, I can guarantee you that they're gonna say one of two things. They're gonna either say that it's a time for our families to come together, right? And then the other reason why they celebrate Thanksgiving, just be honest with yourself. The reason why black people celebrate Thanksgiving is because of the food. Okay? Now, our oppressor has every reason to celebrate Thanksgiving because he was victorious in all the war crimes that he's committed in order to consume the land that belonged to our native brothers. And he's used propaganda to label our native brothers as savages so that they can slaughter them by the tune of millions. You got to understand, back in in the early 1600s, there were 15 million or even more natives in the land. In the early 19th century, early to mid 19th century, we boiled down to 300,000. That's how many they've slaughtered. You know what I mean? They brought their diseases, they brought their smallpox, they've broken every goddamn treaty that you can think of. But in 2020, we spent all of 2020 screaming Black Lives Matter, no justice, no peace, right? What about our native brothers? When this Thursday rolls around and you slapping that cranberry sauce and you slapping that turkey across your greasy mouth, you have no thought for our native brothers and the justice that they deserve, right? You have no thought for that, right? It's because you're selfish. Black people celebrate Thanksgiving because of the food. That's why they celebrate. Black people go to weddings. Why? Because they care about these two sad people getting married. These two sad cases getting married. No, that's not why they go to weddings. They go to weddings for the food. That's why they go. They go to weddings for the party. Thanksgiving is not, number one, you don't even like, you see a family gather up on Thanksgiving and none of them even like each other, right? None of them even like each other. They're there for the excitement of the gathering, of the party. They're there for the food. That's why we go to events, right? That's why you go to birthday parties. Why you go to birthday parties? To watch someone open gifts all day? That's not why you go to birthday parties. You go for the festive. You go for the food. And we've become a people that have no integrity, right? If you claim you stand for what you believe in, then you would stand for our native brothers as well, right? If you are screaming no justice, no peace, and if you are a activist for Black equality, if you are an activist for Black for Black unity, if you are activists for Black Black justice, then what you'll have to understand is that our native brothers fit into that pool as well. You know what I mean? You can't deny it. Like you think you have it worse than our brothers that live in the reservations? Are you kidding me? Have you ever visited one of those reservations? You don't have it worse than them, right? They got it much worse than us, right? And so what do we do moving forward? We know one thing. We know that the Lord hates American holidays. I repeat, the Most High, he hates American holidays. He hates our feast days. He hates it, right? We agree with the crimes that our oppressor has committed towards our people when we celebrate his holidays. We are in agreement with our oppressor. We are in a celebratory manner with our oppressor. Our oppressor is celebrating Thanksgiving because he's thankful for the victories that his forefathers have had towards their enemy, right? That's what he's thankful for. And it's something to be celebrated on his end. What are you thankful for, right? When you think about the Civil War, let's go back to the Civil War. A lot of people think that it was to free slaves. If you think like that, then you're the type of person that trusts your enemy. You're the type of person that can be betrayed over and over, and you will still trust your enemy. You will still trust the ones that betray you. What you have to understand is that there was a big controversy about the expansion to the West. Places like North Dakota, Denver, California. And so there was a race to find out, to query who was going to be which state was going to be a slave state or which state was going to be a non-slave state. And so there was a race. And while millions of black people got freed from slavery, millions of our brothers on the same note got slaughtered for this expansion west. All right? So now there was definitely a trade-off. It's like, okay, either we keep the slave states and allow the South and the Confederacy to grow stronger as more states are coming in, or we disband these slave states and go out towards the western frontier and expand our country. So you see the trade-off. We have to understand in 1865, and even after that time, during the time of Reconstruction, the concentration was over here in the South, while what was going on in the West was ignored. And then we'll talk about devils like Andrew Jackson, Jim Bowie, and all these devils that played a big part in slaughtering our brothers on the western frontiers and pushing out our brothers to land that wasn't sufficient enough to feed them, and how the U.S. government has broken every treaty that he signed with our brothers, and how our brothers trusted in their enemy and relied on them for food. There was a period of time where, this whole land was buffalo terrain. You know what I mean? And what's the value of buffaloes? Buffaloes were not necessarily something that, the main emphasis of buffalo was not necessarily food, but it was also shelter. It was also to keep warmth in the housings. There were so many things that could be made clothing-wise with the buffalo skin, right? And so when you really see how one source can be so sufficient for these tribes of our brothers that were across these lands, then here comes the devil that the Bible speaks of, who goes for sport to kill all the buffaloes that were in this land. You know what I mean? I mean, it was like a locust of buffaloes was all around. An army of buffaloes was all around this land, and our oppressor decided to kill and to continue to oppress our brothers. So now, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the massacres that occurred with our brothers, right? Let me get Psalms. If you're following along, right, I'm going to put it in Psalms, let's see, 35 verse 10, all right? I'll put that in the chat for those that are following along. Let's go to Psalms 35 verse 10. Let's start off with that real quick, all right? Psalms chapter 35 verse 10. All right, and we read. You know what? We might be able to go a little bit. Let's start at verse 10. Let's just get right to the meat of it. All my bones shall say, Lord, who is like unto thee, which delivereth the poor for him that is too strong for him. Let me tell you something. When our oppressor came into these lands, he was too strong for our Native Indian brothers, right? He was the one that brought his horses, he brought his guns, he brought his weapons of warfare, and he was too strong for our Native American brothers, right? So-called Native American brothers. He was too strong for them. And this is what it says. Who is like unto thee, which delivers the poor from him that is too strong for him? Yeah, the poor and the needy from him that spoileth him. Our oppressor came here and he spoiled our brothers, right? You are celebrating one of the most wickedest holidays known to man, right? This holiday represents the slaughter and the massacre of millions and millions of people, and our people, the Lord's chosen people. So now, here's what makes it even worse, is that our people, Black and Hispanic people, know that the natives got slaughtered, right? And they're well aware of it. But our oppressor's influence is so strong in our life that if you were to tell your family, you know what, I'm not celebrating Thanksgiving this year, I'm going to stand up for what I believe. If I stood up for George Floyd and I stood up for all the brothers that got shot by our oppressor and are getting massacred in the streets by our oppressor, well, I'm going to stand up for my brothers. I'm going to stand up for them Native brothers that were here and got slaughtered by the tunes of millions. If you were to do that, the witchcraft that's on our people, your family would disown you. Your family would say you're in a cult. If you decided you did not want to celebrate a day that let's not even say our people, a day that people got massacred. Now I'll put it in a nutshell for you. If I was to say, if we were to pick a day to celebrate the Holocaust of the so-called Jewish man, this place would be in an uproar. This place would be in an uproar. If we were to, if on 9/11 we were to say, we were to be all celebratory and go buy turkeys and have a feast, this place would be in an uproar. So what makes it different that our brothers who got slaughtered, that they should be honored on this day as war heroes? They should be honored as martyrs, right? Those that have been slaughtered for trying to protect their land from encroachment. Which is why I pray. Hear me clearly. For whoever's watching, I pray that every so-called white man, white woman, and child, I pray that they choke on a wishbone this year. Because now you say, "Oh, that sounds harsh. Why would you ever pray for something like that?" Well, let me tell you why. Because our oppressor parades around like he's an angel, like he did no wrong. And he does not want to pay restitution for what he's stolen, right? And so we have to pray that what he's stolen is restored. And what kind of prayer are we setting up to the Most High? We're praying that his economy falls. We're praying that these schools, these colleges never open back up. We're praying that the supermarkets close. We're praying that this place crumbles and Babylon falls. Why would we pray for that? To restore what was stolen. Justice. You said no justice, no peace. We say no justice, no turkey. That's what you should be saying, right? Now imagine. Let me give you a little bit of insight. How can we destroy? You know what we should do? Can I speak to y'all? Can I be frank with y'all? Here's what we should do. I was thinking about this the other day. I think all Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, number one, should come up under the ISUPK under Commander General Yana. That's first and foremost. But let me put the school to the side. We should devise a plan as Black people, as Native people, as Hispanic people. We should all come together and devise a plan. We'll do a 1 year trial. For 1 year, let's not celebrate any American holidays for 1 whole year. Now, what does that include? Martin Luther King's Day, Christmas, Valentine's Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July. Let's say, you know what? Why don't we do a holiday boycott, right? You guys have much respect for the boycotts that they did during the Civil Rights Movement, right? They did the bus boycott, and that essentially crippled the transportation industry, right? And they've done different boycotts, right, throughout the decades. Why don't we do a holiday? Why don't we boycott every one of our oppressors' holidays? Why don't we do that for 1 year? Let's just do 1 year trial. I can guarantee you, if we do that and we don't participate in any of their holidays, I can guarantee you there'll be less Black people less police killings of Black people. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you our oppressor will come begging for us to participate in his economical gain. I can guarantee you that. He will devise all kinds of ways. Listen, if we do that, if we decide that for the third, all right, all right. Let's do this. Just because I know that's a little too much. Valentine's Day, you're scared of your woman. You don't want to get kicked out the house. All right. Let's let the first half of the year slide. What about the third and fourth quarter? The third and fourth quarter of the year is when our oppressor, when the U.S. economy booms, right? Them TVs at Best Buy have been sitting on that shelf all year. No one's buying them TVs. But when the third and fourth quarter come around, Black Friday come around, Christmas comes around, all them things are off the shelf. All them things are sold. Why don't we boycott the third and fourth quarter of the year? Why don't we do that? Why don't you just keep that TV that you had last year? Keep that TV. You don't got to get you got a 50-inch. You don't got to get a 70-inch this year. Hold on to that. And let's just boycott the third and fourth year. Let's not participate in Thanksgiving. Let's not participate. Listen. Let's not participate in Black Friday. Let's not participate in Christmas. Let's not buy a goddamn Christmas gift. You know what? Here's what you're gonna do. We should start this next year. Next year, buy all the gifts that you're gonna buy for your kids. Pick a random day, right? Buy it all. Boom. This covers everything. And then when Thanksgiving comes around, and you know what? Pick a day that you could randomly that you could just eat a turkey and invite family over. Get that out the way. When Thanksgiving comes around, Christmas comes around, I can guarantee you that the U.S. economy is going to crack. I can guarantee you that. We are the ones that fuel this place. We are. We're the ones that fuel it. Right? Y'all like to do challenges, right? Am I missing something? Y'all love to do challenges. You love it, right? There's all kinds of challenges that I've seen online, right? Well, let's do that. Let's do a no Thanksgiving, no Christmas challenge. Let's see who's up for that. Since you care about Black Lives Matter, since you care about Black lives and you care about injustice of Black people, well, does it make a difference with our Native brothers? Our Native brothers was as dark as me, right? I got brothers in the school that are Seminole Indians that are just as dark as me, right? They don't fall under the black pool. See the hypocrisy? See how you can get caught off guard, right? You know in the back of your mind that this day that we're celebratory, and we're being festive, and we're coming together in a solemn assembly. You know in the back of your mind that it's wrong. You know that them niggas on that corner, from every city in America, it's telling you that you're walking on the bones of our Native brothers. You know it's wrong. You know what we're saying is right. You know it. But there's a word that I'm going to bring up that anyone who celebrates Thanksgiving this Thursday fits this word. The word I'm going to bring up is compromising. You are willing to compromise this whole movement that's been put in play all in 2020 for Black inequality, Black injustice. On that day, this Thursday, you have compromised your integrity. You have compromised what you believed in with the death, with the slaughters of our brothers. On that day, you're willing to compromise it. You are, right? Right? Christ got sacrificed by the Romans, right? And Christmas is a Roman holiday. Right? Christmas is a Roman holiday, and the Romans killed Christ. Right? How come there's no justice, no peace for our king? Right? How come? Where's the no justice, no peace? You should not be celebrating a Roman holiday on December 25th. You shouldn't. There's no excuse that you can come up with to say, well, we do it for the kids. Right? Is that the excuse? We do it for the kids, and you become a fool. And here's the thing. Here's what you've done. You're destroying your kids, because you know what you're teaching your child. You're teaching your child that love comes with gifts. That's what you're teaching your child. So now Your daughter's going to be looking for sugar daddies when she gets older. She's going to be on stripper poles when she gets older because that's what you taught them. And mess around, them little brats don't deserve any gifts anyways. They've been monsters all year round, and all of a sudden Christmas comes around, they get gifts, right? But just to side note on, just to get back on the point, what caused the fall of our native brothers, right? Well, the Bible says this, and let's go to let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7, and then we're going to pull up some stories of all the massacres that occurred, right? Worse than your George Floyd situations, worse than all the police killings that you've seen, right? Damn near worse than all the lynchings that have gone on with black people. We'll pull up some of the massacres that the U.S. government never condemned, that the U.S. government set up a slaughtering program for our native brothers. Now they want to build pipelines through the Dakotas. Now they want to encroach even more on horrible land that they gave our brothers. Our oppressor breaks every treaty. I don't know what I mean. Ice Cube thought that our oppressor can come to terms. He can never come to terms, right? You ever watch that? You ever seen that? When you would shake someone's hand and they would put this in the behind their back. We as kids, we used to do this, right? We used to do this. We'd be like, yeah, we come to an agreement. Like we put this behind our back the whole time, and we shake our hand, shake someone's hand in an agreement. The whole time we were like this. That's what our oppressor does. He does this right here every time. What he does is he shakes your hand, and he got a sword behind his back, ready to stab you when you turn around. You've agreed, you've come to an agreement, everyone goes about their business, and the whole time he's planning on stabbing you in the back. That's what he does, man. That's his whole MO, right? James Polk started a movement and won the election because he gassed and he pumped up the minds of our oppressor and told them that they were God's people and that as from sea to shining sea, whatever land that was on the horizon belonged to them, right? Manifest destiny, right? You don't know what kind of beast you're dealing with, man. You don't understand what kind of beast you're dealing with. This COVID ain't going away, man. This ain't going away anytime soon, right? It's not going away. And the reason why it's not going away is because this place, America, Babylon, is falling under the Lord's judgment. Why? For the 15 million natives that were slaughtered for you to enjoy your turkey. That's why. Right? That's why. Right? But let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7. All right? Let's get it. Let me just type it in the chat. Y'all, Salakia, man, I forgot to ask, man. If y'all have any questions, man, bring up your questions. Ecclesiastes, right? I'm gonna put it in the chat. 7 verse 7. All right. You a damn fool. You gonna look like a damn fool talking about all this marching and protest you did for black injustice. You gonna look like a damn fool when you slapping that turkey across your greasy mouth, not knowing that 15 million of our native brothers got slaughtered, right, on that day. Not knowing that it's the same ploy, it's the same dumb rhetoric of celebrating 4th of July. How the hell is black people in 2020 celebrating 4th of July? What is your reason for that? And like I mentioned earlier, the only reason you celebrate 4th of July is because of the food. It's because of your lust, right? You are willing to compromise your integrity for a piece for turkey. You're willing to compromise your integrity for some pork ribs. The damn shame. That's how weak we've become, right? We're not willing to stand for what we believe in for a goddamn turkey. You lost your mind, man. But let me get this real quick. Here's the mistake that our native brothers made, right? The first mistake they made was let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 10 after that. First mistake they made is they decided to trade with our oppressor, not knowing the end game and not knowing that this snake that they're playing with is eventually going to bite. And here's what the Bible says. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7, it says, surely oppression maketh the wise man mad. Let me tell you something. This Thursday, you should be mad. You should have a mean mug on Thursday. You shouldn't be all cheery and all celebratory this Thursday. You should be mad. You should be angry. You should be furious, right? You should go to your family's house and just flip the whole table of food, man. Right? And then chuck the deuce. I'm out. You should be furious because it says surely oppression making the wise man mad. One thing about our oppressor is that he wants to see you smile, right? He want to see them pearly whites. He wants to see you smile in the midst of oppression. While you're being oppressed, he expects you to smile, right? Right? That's why I used to love them T-shirts. I remember Captain Soccer War. He used to rock them the Angry Black Man T-shirts, man. That was on point right there, right? You should be angry at your oppressor for even being celebratory for slaughtering your brothers. You should be angry, right? But let's keep reading. And a gift destroyed the heart. Let me tell you something. What destroyed black leadership? What destroyed Hispanic leadership? What destroyed our native brothers' leadership? It was always a gift, man. They've always paid off somebody. They paid off your preachers. They paid off your politicians. They paid off your leaders. They paid off your chiefs. A gift always destroys the heart, man. A gift, here's what a gift does. A gift brings down your defense. It's like, oh, here's a gift. And it brings down your defense. It takes you off guard. That's what it does. And it destroys your mind. That's what it does. During Christmas, them gifts that you're giving them little brats are destroying their mind. Because in their mind, what are they equating with gifts? They're equating love with gifts, which is why so many women are promiscuous when they get into their teens. They'll sleep with someone for a pair of Jordans. Listen, it's even worse. They'll sleep with someone for a dime bag of weed. They still call it dime bags nowadays. It's been so long since I've endeavored in that filthy lifestyle. But they still sell dime bags. A woman will have sex with you for a dime bag of weed. Many babies' mamas are getting their rent paid by their landlord because their landlord is having sex with them. That man who she's behind on her rent, he got to pay to play. And that's how your kids treat you during Christmas time. You gotta pay to play. Your kids are sunning you. They know you're gullible, right? And what do? You put the pressure on that black man. And you tell that black man, you better have them gifts for them kids. Or don't bother coming home. You put so much pressure on that brother that brother gotta go fix somebody. That brother gotta go, he gotta go do a lick. He gotta go rob somebody to make sure that them little brats get gifts, man. It's a sad case that we're in, man. And this is why this scripture is very important. It says it one more time, Ecclesiastes 7, verse 7. And a gift destroyed the heart. That's what happens, right? That's what our oppressor did. He gave them gifts, and he signed treaties. He gave them trinkets, and he signed treaties that he broke. And he encroached on their land, and he pushed them out further and further, and gave them the slums of the land. That's what he did. And he took the best of their fruits, the fruit of the land. Right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 49, verse 50. And after that, we're going to read some of these massacres. Now, I called this class, let me get this right. Salakia. So I called this class Black Native American Holocaust, U.S. government, and Edomberg trials. Now, why did I call it the Edomberg trials? There's no such thing as an Edomberg trial. But have you heard of the Nuremberg trials, right? The Nuremberg trials, let me just give you a little bit of history about the Nuremberg trials, right? What you have to understand is that the Nazis learned their method of torture and oppression and the Holocaust that they committed against the so-called Jewish man. They learned it from America. Hitler learned it from the U.S. government, right? So let's read what the Nuremberg trials were. Pay attention to this, right? And see why I call it the Edomberg trial, right? Here's what the Nuremberg trials were. It says this: held for the purpose of bringing Nazi war criminals to justice. The Nuremberg trials were a series of 13 trials in Nuremberg, Germany between 1945 and 1949. The defendants, who included Nazi party officials, who included Nazi party officials and high-ranking military officers, along with German lawyers and doctors, were indicted with such charges as crimes against peace and crimes against humanity. Okay? So the reason why the Nuremberg trials were in effect is because crime against peace and a crime against humanity. In the 1600s, when those pilgrims landed, when them Protestants and them Quakers and them Mormons landed here, they met a peaceable people. When Christopher Columbus landed in Hispaniola, they met a peaceable people. And those people, though they were curious as to what kind of people they were still peaceable. And they put down their guard because of what? Because of the gifts that they were given, which is why they put down their guard. And as you know, as history tells you, you know what happened, right? You know what happened. And now, I call it the Edomberg trial because those same military officers in the U.S. government and the Nazi U.S. government party, they need to be put on trial and indicted for such charges and crimes as crimes against peace and crimes against humanity. And that's what they've committed. And so it's clear that our lives don't matter. And the fact that we have to prove that our lives matter is a joke. I got to prove to you that my life matters. Are you kidding me? And that's the kind of sick, twisted society that we live in. I got to prove to you that my life matters. That's a joke right there. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Let's start at verse. Let's wait. Let's start at verse. Deuteronomy 28 and let's start at verse 33. Right? Here's what it reads. It says this: the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. Let me tell you something. When these devils came into this land, when the so-called white man came into the Americas, he did not know how to survive out here, right? He was not used to the terrain. He was not used to the weather patterns. He was not used to the agricultural system in this place. And the most peaceable people on the planet, the most loving people on the planet, decided to help this beast survive in the Americas. And so we read Deuteronomy 28, verse 33, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. All the labor that our native brothers have done in this land, all the agricultural system that they've created in this land, right? And all the fruit of thy land, the animals, the livestock, all that, a nation which they knew not, the Protestants, which broke off from the Catholic Church. Let me tell you something. Christianity is the most violent religion on the planet. The people that slaughtered 15 million natives in this land were Christians. The people that lynched black people in America were Christians. Your slave owners of black people in America were Christians. The Spaniards that oppressed our Mexican brothers, our Aztec brothers, they were Christians. Just like Allah said, just like Muhammad said, Allah or the sword. Our oppressor, who is the devil that the Bible speaks of, said white Jesus or the sword. Okay? I just wanted to reiterate that. But they ate the fruit of the land, O nation that we knew not. And then it says this, Deuteronomy 28, verse 33, and thou shalt only be oppressed and crushed always. Let me tell you something. To this day, our native brothers are being oppressed and crushed always. Right? All kinds of ways they're being oppressed and crushed. You go into them reservations, man. You go into them barrios. It is the most disturbing place to be. I mean, all you're going to see is beer bottles and liquor bottles all around. Child molestation running rampant. Rapes running rampant. It is a horrible environment to be in. You thought your projects was bad. No. You thought Chicago was bad. No. This place is bad. Right? But okay, let's get to it. Now I'm like 15 minutes behind. But let's go to some of the, right? Bear with me. We're gonna hear what these massacres were. You're gonna know what it was about. All right. Salakia. Let me All right. So we're gonna read a couple, just so you know that this Thursday you are going to be the biggest hypocrite on the planet. You all that marching and protesting for black injustice is null and void come this Thursday when you want to be the first to cut that Thanksgiving, to cut that turkey. And here's the worst part. Who do you think is leading the prayer during Thanksgiving dinner? Who do you just give me a wild guess as who do you think is leading the prayer during Thanksgiving dinner? It's not the man. The man is definitely not leading the prayer. But there is a prayer warrior in that house that is going to tell everyone to hold hands, and that are going to go in a circle and hold hands, and they're going to pray and thank the Lord for this food that we have received today. They are going to thank the Lord. A congregation of sinners is going to thank the Lord for this food, for this day that we're able to come together. Who do you think is leading that prayer service? Who? It's not the man in the house. He's not leading that. You know who's leading that prayer service? Big mama, grandma, your wife, your mother. They're the ones that are leading the prayer service. They're the ones that have infiltrated the church, and they're the ones that are the spiritual leaders in that house. Go ahead, sisters, and tell your mother you're not going to make it for Thanksgiving this year. You're like, you know what? Mom, I'm going to take a rain check on that. I care for my people so much that the crimes that have been committed towards my people, I don't want to participate in that. Thank you, but I'm good. I can guarantee you, not one of you sisters can do that or say that to your mom. And of course, I'm not talking about a sister in the school, but I am talking about a sister in the world. Could never say that to her mom. She firmly believes in this injustice. Problem is, she can't stand up to her mama. So all that marching you did for George Floyd, and all that, protesting you did, and all this Black Lives Matter baloney that you've done, it's null and void, man. It doesn't. Once you slap that turkey in your mouth, you drop the ball, man. You dropped the ball. There's no, okay, well, we're going to omit this day because this day's Thanksgiving. It's a time for family to come together. Knowing in the back of your mind what this day represents. This day, the Thanksgiving represents a massacre. It represents a slaughter, right? But because you're so selfish, because of your lust, because you prefer the enjoyment of food than to honor your dead relatives. Well, you know what? COVID is like the angel of death. You'll have no excuse on that day for the gods worshipped, right? For the idolatry that you've committed. You'll have no excuse on that day when you got to stand in front of the Lord. You will have no excuse. The Lord is going to play back the time that you went to Thanksgiving and you slapped that turkey in your mouth. When your brother's blood cries from the ground to the Lord. And you know what it is, and I'll be honest. I'm gonna come at you the way I need to come at you. you become profane like the so-called white man. That's what you become. For a little morsel of meat, he was willing to give up in his inheritance. Black and Hispanic man, for a little morsel of soup or whatever, or lentil, I don't know what it was, but for a little temporary pleasure, you're willing to compromise your integrity for food. For what? For food. That's why you celebrate Thanksgiving, right? But let's get it. So the one I want to pull up right now. All right, so let me get this one right here. Okay, so the mass killings of Native Americans. Is that the one I want? Let me see. The one I'm going to pull up today. See if I can get it. Okay, yeah, this is the one I want. Okay, so now, y'all have any questions, man? Don't be shook, man. It's only don't be shook, right? Ask your questions. Definitely, you know what I mean. I know. Preparing for that turkey. You're running around, you're scrambling. You know what I mean. Your mother said 12 pounds. You ended up getting 20 pounds of turkey, and it cost them more money. There's gonna be a lot of. It's usually a lot of bickering and fights during these holidays. Yeah, let's get it, man. Let's get it. All right, so now okay, so history, right? There was a particular thing that I on history.com, which I like. I think I pulled this up last year, and it talks about the different battles and massacres that went on. So let's read. We got about 20 minutes. I wanted to really spend the last half hour on this, all right? Now, as you know, there was a lot of stories about our oppressor getting what they call kidnapped by our native brothers. And those stories circulated around all of what was all America. And they depicted our brothers as savages. Because you know, as you say, you tell a story, and the next person how interprets it, the story starts to change as it goes from the next person to the next person. Right? But let's go. It says this, right? This is on history.com, Native genocides. I'm going to put this on the thing real quick, all right? All right, I got it on there. Native American genocides. I like this right here. I think I might have found this last year. I just came across it again. It says this. On a cool day, May Day in 1758, a 10-year-old girl with red hair and freckles was caring for her neighbor's children in a rural western Pennsylvania. In a few moments, Mary Campbell's life changed forever when Delaware Indians kidnapped her and absorbed her into their community for the next 6 years. She became the first of some 200 known cases of white captives, many of whom became pawns in an ongoing power struggle that included European powers, American colonists, and peoples straining to maintain their population, their land, and their way of life. So now, this is a story, one of about 200 stories that reach the minds and heart of our oppressors, which scared them to death. The fact that natives were kidnapped, their women, their children, and they would absorb them into their community, right? Now let's keep reading. While Mary was ultimately returned to her white family, and some evidence points to her having lived happily with her adopted Indian tribe, stories such as hers became a cautionary tale. Remember this word. Remember what it just said. Stories like this became a cautionary tale, meaning this is a tale that was given white settlers that was for them to take caution. Let's keep reading. Stoking fear of savage Indians. The word Indians means savage. And creating a paranoia that escalated into all-out Indian hating. And so now the propaganda is set in place because of stories about the little white girl with freckles that got kidnapped and absorbed into their. So now this stoked fear amongst white settlers, right? That's what you have to understand. It stoked fear among white settlers. So now there's the POA, plan of action, to get rid of the threat because of stories like this. But let's keep reading. Which one? Give me 1 second. Bear with me. There you go. Sorry about it. No sweat. There you go. All right. So let's keep reading, right? This is interesting what I'm talking about here, right? How evil this beast is. Right? So it says, from the time Europeans arrived on American shores, the good old frontiers, Ed's territory between white man's civilization and the untamed natural world. See how you see the wordplay, right? So when they talk about man's civilization, the word civilization comes from the word civilized or civil, right? So the white man has always painted his society as something that was civil. And then it says, in the untamed natural world. So the natural world was considered the world of our brothers that was untamed, like a lion that's untamed, or like a wild horse that's untamed. What it's saying is that untamed, meaning to tame something, is to put them in chains or to put them in control, right? Became a shared space of vast clashing differences that led the U.S. government, or the U.S. Nazi government, is like what I like to call it, to authorize over 1,500 wars. Let me tell you something. Just know, this Thursday when you slapping that turkey in your mouth, 1,500 wars had to go down for this holiday. 1,500 wars. That's a lot of wars. That is, if I was to, let me pull out my calculator. I haven't done a little bit of math in a while, except when I go to the bank. I got my calculator all the way out there. I got a big calculator too. But let's say from 1600 to 1900, right? 300 years, right? Let's divide that by 1,500 wars, right? That is, how can I say this? That's basically, let me see. Let me do this. 300 years. If we did that, that's damn near over 3.5, 4 wars. I want to say a year, right? Or more, even more than that. So now 1,500 wars since then, right? Against our people. Now let's keep reading. Attacks and raids on Indians, the most of any country in the world against indigenous. Let me tell you something. No country in the world has had more wars against indigenous people than America. They're the Americas. And when I'm Americas, I'm talking about North, South, and Central. I'm talking about our Mexican brothers who clashed with the Spaniards, all of Central America and South America, who clashed with the Spaniards and the Portuguese, right? Including the Caribbean, right? Who clashed with what? The Spaniards and the French. Let's keep reading. By the close of the Indian Wars in the late 19th century, fewer than 238,000 indigenous people remained. And that's and pay attention to this number. A sharp decline from an estimated 5 million to 15 million living in North America when Columbus arrived in 1492. Little over 400 years, we went from 5 to 15 million to 238,000 of our native brothers in the land, man. That is a massacre. You want to talk about the 6 million so-called Jewish men that got slaughtered by Hitler. We're talking about 5 to 15 million that got slaughtered. 15 million. And it's probably even more. It's probably around the tune of 70 million. They try to shortchange the number and say 15 million. It's way more than that. I can guarantee you it's way. The Lord said we would be as the sand of the sea. Come on, man. Let's keep reading. The reason for this racial genocide were multi-layered. Settlers, most of whom had been barred from inheriting property in Europe, arrived on American shores hungry for Indian land. Let me tell you something. This was a free fall. When you went to Europe, these poor, nasty, filthy Europeans could not inherit land in Europe. It was mostly the aristocrats that owned land in Europe. So what did they do? They decided to come to the Americas and steal the land that belonged to the Lord's chosen people. That's how much of a virus this beast is. He comes, and wherever he goes, he destroys everything in his path. He rapes, he kills, he slaughters, he murders. He is a filthy animal, and he is the embodiment of Satan on the planet. And this is the so-called white man. Let's keep reading. And the abundant natural resources that came with it, this is what we just read earlier, where he will eat up the fruit of thy land that our native brothers labored for, right? Let's keep reading. Indians' collusion with the British during the American Revolution and the War of 1812 exasperated American hostility and suspicion towards them. So now, another reason why Americans were so against these natives is because they ended up siding with the British at one point, right? Because the British and the natives had a common enemy. But this is what ended up backfiring. Joining your oppressor. You could never join your oppressor in a beef. You could never do that. Even more fundamentally, indigenous people were just too different. Their skin was dark. So I guess Black Lives Matter does not matter on Thanksgiving. That's the only day it doesn't matter. Thanksgiving, let's put all the signs down on Thanksgiving. BLM matters. BLM signs got to go down on Thanksgiving. All the chanting, no justice, no peace, that got to go on hold. Because it's Thanksgiving, right? Somehow you think you can take a holiday and flip it. Black people just try to flip the holiday and make it seem as if it's a time to be thankful for your family. You damn well know what time it is. You know what went down. You know what time it is, right? Their languages were foreign, and their worldviews and spiritual beliefs were beyond most white men's comprehension. And that's true, man. We are the most spiritual people on the planet, and it goes beyond the white man's comprehension. The white man can't comprehend our spirituality. He cannot. Like I said, he is the embodiment of Satan. That's what he is, the embodiment of Satan. He can't comprehend how our lingo. That's why he can't understand the Bible. He can't understand it. Because, like it says, our worldviews and our spiritual beliefs were beyond most white men's comprehension. It just said it, right? It's way beyond their comprehension. That's why they don't understand the streets, right? They can't comprehend what we're saying out in these streets. To settlers fearful that a loved one might become the next Mary Campbell, all this stoked racial hatred and paranoia, making it easy to paint indigenous people as pagan savages who must be killed in the name of civilization and Christianity. Did I not tell you that Christianity is the most violent, most vile religion on the planet? Right? I'm going to read this part one more time. It says this: to settlers fearful that a loved one might become the next Mary Campbell, all this stoked racial hatred and paranoia, making it easy to paint indigenous people as pagan savages who must be killed in the name of Jesus, in the name of civilization, and in the name of Christianity. See how evil your oppressor is? See how he thinks when he's fearful of something? He stokes racial hatred. He does it to everybody, but more particularly the Lord's chosen people. And when his paranoia gets to going, it's time to die. When the white man is paranoid, you are going to die. That's it. That's just the truth of the matter. All right, now let's get to it. Right, I'm going to spend 8 more minutes. Below, some of the most aggressive acts of genocide has taken against indigenous people. The most. All right, let's read this. The Nathan massacre in 1782. A group of militiamen from Pennsylvania killed Christianized Delaware Indians. Damn. They converted to Christianity and they still killed them, illustrating the growing contempt for Native people. Captain David Williamson ordered the converted Delawares, who had been taking blame for the attacks on white settlements, to go to the cooper shop 2 at a time, where militiamen beat them to death with wooden mallets and hatchets. This white man has no compassion at all. Ironically, the Delawares were the first Indians to capture a white settler and the first to sign a U.S. Indian treaty 4 years earlier. So despite them signing the treaty 4 years earlier, they still slaughtered them. One that set a precedent for 374 Indian treaties over the next 100 years, often employing the common phrase, peace and friendship. That's not the white man's MO. White man's MO is not peace and friendship. Y'all should know that by now. 229 of these agreements led to tribal lands being ceded to a rapidly expanding United States. Many treaties negotiated U.S. Indian trade relations, establishing a trade system to oust the British in their goods, especially the guns they put in Indian hands. So as an act of warfare, the British were given the Indian guns. And so the U.S. had to devise a way to cut off trade with the British, and did all of the native Indian lands, and broke out of 384 treaties, they broke to 229 in the last 100 years. Eventually, the rest of those treaties were broken as well, right? I only got 5 minutes. Let's get to the big one. All right, let's get to the Andrew Jackson one. All right, here we go. The Creek War. This is the big one. This is the one everybody knows. In the South, the War of 1812 bled into the Muscat Creek War of 1813 to 1814, also known as the Red Stick War, an intertribal conflict among Creek Indian factions. The war also engaged U.S. militias, along with the British and Spanish, who backed the Indians to help keep Americans from encroaching on their interests. Now, the only reason the British and the French supported the natives is because they had their own interests in mind. Eventually, the British and the French would have took their land, but to prevent encroachment, they sided with the natives. And the Bible says in Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 10, it says to never trust thine enemy. And they trusted the British and the French, right? But let's keep reading. Early Creek victories inspired General Andrew Jackson, who was a general at the time, he wasn't the president, to retaliate with 2,500 men, mostly Tennessee militia in the early November 1814. To avenge the Creek-led massacre at Fort Mims, Jackson and his men slaughtered 186 Creeks at Tallahatchie. And here's what Davy Crockett said. Y'all know who Davy Crockett is? Anyone know who Davy Crockett is? I'll wait. Give a quick second, right? Right? I read. He was a soldier, he was a politician, he was and he was a prolific storyteller. You might have heard of his name, Davy Crockett. Known as the king of the wildest frontier, his adventures, both real and fictitious, earned him an American folk hero status. Davy Crockett was an American folk hero for participating in the slaughter of our people. All right? Get that. Just put that in your mind, right? Most of the statues that you see up in America had something to do with genocide of our people. But let's keep reading. In desperation, Misco Creek women killed their children so they would not see the soldiers butcher them. As one woman started to kill her baby, the famed Indian fighter, Andrew Jackson, grabbed the child from the mother. Later, he delivered the Indian baby to his wife, Rachel, for both of them to raise as their own. Jackson went on to win the Red Stick War in a decisive battle at Horseshoe Bend. The subsequent treaty required the Creek to cede more than 21 million acres of land to the United States. That war alone, the U.S. government seized 21 million acres of land, right? They call this Andrew Jackson is known for the Trail of Tears, right? And so he essentially slaughtered all these people and caused the forced removal to the point where they lost 21 million acres of land. Not 21,000, not 2,100, not 21,000. 21 million acres of land. The white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of, right? Excuse my Hebrew. He is the devil that the Bible speaks of. 21 million acres of land. Let's keep reading. Forced removal. One of the most bitterly debated issues on the floor of Congress was that the Indian Removal Bill. There was an Indian Removal Bill of 1830, pushed hard by then President Andrew Jackson. Despite being assailed by many legislators, even his legislators, positioned him as being immoral. The bill finally passed in Senate by 9 votes, 29-17, and by even smaller margin in the House. In Jackson's thinking, more than 36 Eastern tribes stood in the way of what he saw as the settlers' divinely ordained rights to clear the wilderness, build homes, and grow cotton and other crops. And guess who was growing them cottons? Guess who was growing? I don't need to tell you who was growing the cottons. It's the same ones that were picking the cottons. It's the same people that were picking the cotton. In his annual address to Congress in 1833, Jackson denounced Indians, stating they have neither the intelligence, the industry, the moral habits, nor the desire of improvement, which are essential to any favorable change in their condition. Established in the midst of another and a superior race, They must necessarily yield to the force of circumstances and or before long disappearance. Man, what I just read right now is so disturbing on a whole nother level, right? And what we have to understand is that devils like Andrew Jackson will have to present themselves in the Edomberg trial. And the Edomberg trial is when the Lord is going to judge our oppressor. Just like the world came together to capture all the Nazi military and Nazi party members and had the Nuremberg trial, well, there's going to be an Edomberg trial where the Lord is going to judge Edom, judge the so-called white man for the crimes that he's committed against our brothers. And then the fact that he is celebrating his crimes and his victories against the Lord's chosen people, you should be a damn shame of yourself to join him in his celebratory matters, right? The Bible says in Amos chapter 5, verse 21, it says this. It says, I hate and I despise your feast days. The Lord hates Thanksgiving. Every time you slap that turkey in your mouth, the angels are taking notes, right? And you become a hypocrite, man. And then what? After Black Friday, next week, what is back to the Black Lives Matter signs go back up again? Come on, man, you're a hypocrite. Now let's read the last part. From 1830 to 1840, the U.S. Army removed 60,000 Indians, Choctaw, Creek, Cherokee, and others from the east in exchange for a new territory west of the Mississippi. Thousands died along the way in what became known as the Trail of Tears. And as whites pushed ever westward, the Indian designated territory continued to shrink. Now you want to talk about gentrification in your neighborhood? I mean, damn. Even the lands that our oppressor gave our native brothers, even that shrunk, and it's still shrinking today. You remember the Dakota pipelines, the U.S. government trying to put a pipeline through our brothers' lands, man. You know what it is, man. You're just, there's something sick inside of you that just has no consideration for your people, man. No regards for your people, man. You become vain and profane like your slave master. You know what I mean? That's what you are when you celebrate Thanksgiving. You have become profane and vain like your slave master, man. That's all, man. I'm not gonna take too much of y'all time. I'm about to end this class, man. Thank you for tuning in. Let's do one more. Isaiah chapter 60, verse 18. All right? Let's get there. We're going to close out. Isaiah chapter 60, verse 18. It says this. Violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders. But thou shalt call the walls salvation, and thy gates praise. Let me tell you something. There's going to come a time where there ain't going to be no more violence in our land. There ain't going to be no more destruction in our land. There's going to come a time where we're going to, in the kingdom of heaven, where we're going to reign with Christ. And we're going to finally be in our land of rest. America was never our land of rest. And all things have gone down for the glory of the Lord. And the Lord is showing his glory with the COVID-19. And I'm going to pray that this plague continues on. And I'm going to pray that many more plagues come so that this beast can be snuffed and put out of business. And with that, with the Israelite School Universal Practical Knowledge, started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. We've been teaching so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Indians. The Lord shows the people according to the Bible, according to the scriptures. And when I say so-called Native Indians, it is a word that we have to learn not to use We should just say our native brothers, our Seminole brothers, our Gad brothers. However way we can reword it, let's reword it. And with that, Shalom Yabashina Shai Barakatham to all my brothers, Yahweh Shemal Atabashina, shout out all my sisters. Shalom, fam.